Hi y'all, so we're Two Goths in a Coffin. I'm Amari.
I'm Jude.
And wait, is that how we usually do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we usually do it. So today we are going to talk about a little movie that recently came out on Christmas Day. Can you guess what it is?
It's Nosferatu.
Oh my god, what? Oh my god, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. If you follow us on, like, TikTok or Instagram, you know that we, like, went to the we went on opening day. Day of. In
Christmas
costume.
Day.
We were having a good time.
We were having a great time. We also wore the little outfits that, our friends suggested. And my friends, well, let's not be parasocial, but...
No, you're my best friend, actually. And I care about you the most. Anyway. But yeah, if you haven't seen our previous video on our YouTube channel where we kind of like got our outfits and then we kind of put some stuff together and then we put it on our other social media and had people choose, and we went with the outfits you chose and it was really fun, actually.
Yeah.
And
we'll have to do something like that again when it comes up.
Yeah. But yeah, so we watched it and
we might have some controversial opinions, but we're going to start off.
I want to do
like.
A disclaimer, which is that contrary to popular belief, I like to like things. Like, I do like to like things. That's not to say, that sounds like it's like me saying I didn't like it. I'm not saying I didn't like it. Sorry, I thought I saw my cat behind me. She's in this room somewhere. It's not that I didn't like it, but I feel like I had very different opinions about it than other people. Mm-hmm. But we're not doing this because we want to be, like, contrarian or whatever.
Actually, for me personally, I was super excited for this. And I still am, I'm loving all these, like, vampire movies and shows and whatnot coming out. Interview with the Vampire kind of, like, started that by, like, recently,
Yeah, it kind of
so that
re-kicked off that fun period piece.
So that we
gothic.
Got that out of the way, since some people have been saying otherwise, but it was Interview with the Vampire, okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. With Louis de Pontelac.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I also think that, like, we reinvigorated this interest in the gothic.
Yeah.
And the look of the movie, I love.
That's what we're starting with. We're starting with what we love. It was gorgeous.
I do love... Okay, so God. One of the things that... back when me and my sister watched the 1922, like, Murnau version of Nosferatu, we, in a really jokey way, loved the fact that since it had to be filmed during the day regardless, because they were dealing with large format cameras, which are basically just, like, a box that you put a thing of film in.
Yeah.
They would just put a blue filter when it was night and then a yellow filter when it was day, even though you could tell that it was filmed at day both times. But I really did love how it almost felt like a very artful call to how blue it was at night. Mm-hmm. Ugh, I loved that. Like, the night felt so blue, and all I could think of was it being, like, kind of like a loving, like, reference to Murnau, with it being so blue.
Yeah, no, it was gorgeous. The use of, like, shadows and lighting, like, there were some really beautiful shots, like the one in the little forest clearing, that was gorgeous. I know some other people have said that too, but, like, it really is just, like,
the beautiful shot. Since the trailer, I've loved the shot where, like, the door opens and you see Count Orlok, like, in shadow with the dog. Mm-hmm. That's such a beautiful shot. I loved, that shot of the hand, the shadow of the hand going over the city.
That's what I'm saying. All the uses of shadow, it was on it. It was so...
The other clear Murnau call out of when he's coming into the home and it's just the shadow creeping on the wall, like doing the little Nosferatu like thing. I was like, yes, I love that. That was so great. I loved also, it felt like when it came to the actors and the direction, it felt like the there was like a tacit agreement to like not be self-conscious because like, Gothic literature and especially Gothic literature, it's a lot of like exclamation points, lots of big emotions, lots of big displays of emotion, and the scene where she literally like rends her clothes, I was like, that's something you read in every Gothic novel, like literally tearing from the sheer emotion of it, and then she just did it. And I did get a little annoyed in the theater that when they would have those really big emotions, people would laugh. And I was like,
we had some annoying people. If you remember my face, know that I think you're annoying because there were some annoying people in our very like right next to us.
Literally sitting next to us,
like talking
and pulling out phones.
Actively. Yes, I was like, I swear to God, if you don't stop it,
because I kept seeing like a light in the corner of my vision, and they would just be like, and I'm like, can you
were trying
your phone
me.
away?
They were trying me.
But I love that, like, there's sometimes, I feel like, especially recently, because, like, things do very easily become meme-ified, you can sometimes feel when actors are holding back because of that, but
we kind of talked about that when we were talking about Jacob Anderson.
Yeah, that I love that Jacob just, like...
spitting and just, like...
Yeah.
Like,
and does not care.
Visceral.
Like, really, yeah... very visceral, just her continuing to act in that scene with like drool dripping down her face, and it's just like just going for it.
She did that, like her performance was like outstanding.
And I disagree with the people who said that she has iPhone face, because
people said that
people were saying like, oh, I don't buy her in a period piece because she has iPhone face. I was like, no. And this sounds like an insult, but it was like a huge beauty standard at the time to have a tall forehead, and they leaned into that. And I was like, she's got that like owlish round face that was like the beauty ideal of the time. And like I thought it was good. I love the dedication to time period as well. That was another thing I really enjoyed.
The costuming was gorgeous. I really feel like, aside from what they were going to talk about, like, he was hitting a lot of the notes in regard to, like, when we're getting into Gothic horror. For the most part, I did really enjoy it, and I really loved the atmosphere. I loved everything that they were bringing to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add in regards to what you liked about it?
I think those were kind of like the things.
Those are the high points. Like it was like
I like that it felt like everyone
box.
was like really going for it. Honestly, and everyone and their dog has said this, but if you hadn't told me that it was Bill Skarsgård, I would not have known who that guy was.
Honestly, I forgot that it was him, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
When he first was introduced, I was like, I wonder when Count Orlok is gonna be, because I know he's played by Bill Skarsgård, and then like halfway through his talking, I was like, wait, that has to be him.
I was like, oh wait, like halfway through, I remember, and I was like, oh. This is him? For real?
Yeah, I did not at all recognize him. They really leaned into the appearance and the face of, like, the historical, like, Vlad Tepes.
Yeah.
Like...
very unrecognizable. It was...
really interesting. I will say, now getting into things that I didn't love.
Not gay enough, no, I'm kidding.
That was a joke. I'm actually going to take that very seriously. Because one of the things that... so to kind of cap this off at the beginning, I feel like if you've never seen another adaptation of Nosferatu, this is a great version of Nosferatu.
Like we said, it literally hit everything else, but...
However, if you have seen other versions of Nosferatu, I do feel like there are elements, crucial elements when it comes to Count Orlok himself that are missing. And I do think there, especially in the 79 version, there is an energy. And, like, I don't know if for those who maybe aren't as familiar, like... Nosferatu, I very reductively sum it up as like the Please Don't Sue Us version of Dracula, where it's basically Dracula. And so the 79 version just uses the names from Dracula kind of interchangeably. So they just straight up are like, this is Jonathan, this is Lucy, this is Mina. We sometimes call Nosferatu Dracula. This is Dracula. And so what I was going to say, all that to say, like, when I'm talking 79 version, I will call the Thomas analog Jonathan, because his name is Jonathan in that version. But, like, there is an energy in that first scene, in that first meeting between Count Orlok and Jonathan / Thomas, where it's kind of gay. There's a very the quintessential two big moments for me was when he's like, in the similar vein in the 2024 version, when he's like, all the servants are gone, but he's kind of like, deal with that yourself. In the 79 version, and even I think I'm trying to remember the 1922 version, it's kind of like, let me serve you.
Yeah.
And leaning over and taking his glass and pouring it, and
it's all very intimate.
Very intimate. And then when he cuts his finger,
it all feels very like, in both versions, it feels extremely like intimate.
Yeah, and that's like part of it.
And there's so much distance in this one. I was like, from the very beginning of that little scene, I was like, there's already something off. There's something that's not right. And we're gonna get more into it, but like, just to say, I think part of the problem for us is that it's basically a play-by-play of, like, the past, too. Maybe leaning even more into, like, it being, like, darker and, like, the gothic horror and a little less, like, campy and goofy. But it's basically a play-by-play.
It's very similar.
But then these elements that we're about to, like, talk about are the few elements that they did take out. But they feel so essential to
it's like
the character.
It feels like they took it out, but in my opinion, if you're going to take it out, you have to add something else, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So, like, they took out, and so, like, the moment being different of, like, Jonathan / Thomas cuts his finger, and in the 79 version, he sucks his finger.
Yeah.
And it is a strange moment, and in this one, it's like a weird cut to black, where, like, you assume something there happened, but then you have, like, the bite on the chest, which to me felt sexual.
I mean, that was looks. I was like, why did he do right on the top of his titty? I was kind of like, but it still was not. The energy was still not there. There was no tension. Like
there was moments where it could have been, but it felt like they got scared.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to lean into the implication that they themselves put there, which is like the second time the other times he's attacked in bed.
Yeah.
And Count Orlok gives him the vision of Ellen when he's attacking him, and then it cuts, and it felt to me like there was going to be more of a very transparent extension of that psychosexual, like, relationship with Thomas being roped in as well. But then it didn't really go for it. And it feels like, to me, when you're talking about, like, transgressive sexuality, queerness is right there. Like, it's first thing, like, that you can kind of that space that you can kind of play in and explore, yeah. And I really was kind of wanting more of that. So to the jokey thing of not gay enough, but I legitimately was like, it feels like when you're talking about transgressive sexuality and you almost purposefully ignore, and I know some people have jokingly been like,
I saw someone called him trade, and I'm like, first of all, he's not trade, okay? That is a term for black folk. So if you are watching and you see that, that's not for you to use, by the way. But it's okay. It's not gay, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I've seen people jokingly
but
say
it was
that,
not.
It wasn't
not
there.
giving.
It wasn't there.
At
It wasn't
all.
giving. And even
I'm sorry. Like, it was not leaning far enough into that for y'all to be like bisexual. I wish.
I do wish, because it would have been really interesting. And then, like, I think this is the thing that starts to set us apart. It was not a horny movie.
Yes, that's okay.
It to me, because it was not. It felt like it wanted to be. It felt like it wanted me to think it was in the theater. But I kept thinking like it's so divorced from sexuality while trying to make it feel like it's like drenched in it, but it isn't, because it ignores two important things to make something horny, which is eroticism and sensuality. It was neither of those.
It was not giving that at all. Like,
it's out.
Pause.
It felt like while it was trying to be horny, it was so removed from the body and from senses and all of that. Like,
okay,
yeah.
The thing is that overall, like, what, and it goes into all these different things,
yes.
is that what we felt was really missing was, like, it was kind of soulless, and there wasn't, like, enough, like, there wasn't enough of, like, an emotional beat. There wasn't, like, what was the word I wanted to use? It was just, it was really, okay, so in the other two, you can, like, really feel Orlok's, like, longing and, like, the loneliness and, like, these, like, really, like, deep emotions for, like, some kind of, like, connection. And here, it was missing. And I felt like it's a very crucial element so that you can kind of, I don't know, there was not like a strong connection. So I'm not understanding, like, really his motivation. Like, oh, so he's coming out here to, like, do what? Like, why is he here? Why does he want her? Like, there's no, I'm losing my train of thought.
No, because it's kind of like, it feels almost like it's very, very impersonal, where he's coming to claim something that he...
Very transactional.
Yeah, like I'm picking up this thing that I signed for.
Yeah. But you're like, okay.
Yeah, but in the previous versions, you feel
he was so
when
desperate.
You see
that
him,
was the word. Like, he was, like, very desperate. Even in the scene with Jonathan / Thomas, like, you could even feel the desperation there in the other two movies. Like, he needed some kind of, he desperately needs some kind of connection, and I feel like it just kind of weakens it without it. I don't know, it's just... Yeah,
it removes... Okay, so, like, and this is a much worse movie I'm gonna reference, but it's also an adaptation of part of Dracula, which by extension is an adaptation of part of Nosferatu, which is The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which came
I didn't
out.
see that one.
I watched it with Jackie, my sister. I said, like, you're supposed to know who my sister is. But one of the things that it did that I feel like this movie also did was it felt like it was really trying to dip into that, like, what if vampires were scary? But it doesn't get what's scary about a vampire.
Yes.
And it's just like, what if it was kind of like a weird, like a ugly creature that's just, like, hunting you?
But you need more than that. What's really scary is how, like, close to being, like, human but being absolutely not. And still having a lot of these, like, human emotions and human needs, but also they're still a monster.
Yeah. And the vampire as, like, symbol of outsider, and the vampire as symbol of, like, social pariah, and the way I feel like the way that it is handled and the way that it is, the narrative interacts with it, also I think is indicative of how we do interact with those we have decided are outsiders and pariahs. And, like, because the vampire has to hide, because if it's found out, it's in danger as well. So it's, like, something that appears human that has to exist in proximity to humanity because that's its source, that's its hunting ground, but also has to remain far enough from humanity that it isn't found out. And that is a really fun, interesting way that this specific type of monster operates. And I think one of the other things is that this movie, I think, doesn't understand about a vampire, or like where the horror from a vampire can come from, is being so strongly desired by something that dangerous. And it's like
and there was no desire.
I didn't feel like there was any desire. I felt like it was just like
coming to claim something that was yours, and that was it.
And it's like in the other versions you could feel that because Count Orlok was so lonely, that when he latches on to Ellen/Lucy, he doesn't want to let go because of that loneliness.
And that drive, I think, makes a world of a difference.
And it also,
and it makes
to
it
me,
scarier.
It also adds to the psychosexuality that I feel like this one was trying to achieve, but it didn't achieve because of this, like, this unwillingness to examine what Count Orlok's sexuality is. It's like, it didn't even feel like they were imposing, like, sexual desire on top of, like, upon him.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just kind of, like, around him, but I also feel like it was around everybody, but it didn't actually, like, access them, if that makes any sense. It even, like, the scenes that were, like, literally sexual didn't feel sexual. It felt... You had used a word when we were talking sterile.
That's what I said when you were talking about it before. Like, it felt very sterile. I mean, like, again, not everyone goes to the class of Cronenberg, but... but, like...
Yeah, we were talking about it, and, like, he's, like, my go-to horror and sexuality guy, because, like, it feels like I feel like that man thinks a lot about the body, and just his day-to-day, and, like, the less conventional avenues for, like, sexual desire, or, like, what provokes...
eroticism.
Yeah. Like, thinking of Crimes of the Future, where the way that they have sex is through surgery. And, like... That's
the one I actually haven't watched yet.
I watched it and I thought it was really interesting. And, like, they literally call, like, actual sex the old sex. We don't really do that anymore. If you want to, like, to have, like, intimacy, you straight up just open someone up and get your hands all in there. And it's like... What a crazy way to interact with sexuality. But he makes it feel sensual. And I just feel like even the most, like, straight up, this is literally sex, did not feel sexual. And there is a scene that we talked about a little bit also. We've had a whole conversation.
We had several conversations about this.
But...
Because it's...
The scene with the implied necrophilia between Harding and his wife. I didn't even get anything. I was like, it wasn't even like a sicko moment for me. Yeah. Because, like, I didn't feel any connection there. And I felt like there was something that didn't quite break through there for me.
Oh.
My chair, I didn't move and it made a noise.
Did it break?
It hopefully not. But yeah, so... It didn't... I remember sitting there thinking, like... It feels like he, being Robert Eggers, wanted me to be like, oh my god. But I was just like, I wish there was more here. I wish I, like, felt it more. But I didn't feel it. Because that's another, like, very gothic moment that should have been very gothic, but wasn't. And it's just, I guess because throughout the whole movie, I didn't really feel him... having an obsession with his wife in that way, and then it happens, but it also feels very, like...
I mean, like...
They didn't really want to get into it.
He kind of did. Like, he kept talking about how he, like, basically can't stay off her or whatever. But
he
like...
says that,
but like, there's no...
It.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But, like, even though he did, like... Basically, just said... Why he keeps saying it, like, there's no... You're not getting that from him. You're not feeling that from him. Yeah. Same with... Count Orlok, like, you're not feeling that desperation, no kind of longing for for Ellen. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so why are you here? Why are you
Sorry.
killing everyone for her? Like, what is your motivation? Because it's
Yes.
obviously not desire. Because I just feel like you're just come and get your prize, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, there's a cat's tail. Yeah.
Which I wanted that. So, like...
Yes.
And the thing is, like, I'm not, like, a Robert Eggers, like, hate or anything, because I loved The Lighthouse. I personally love The Lighthouse. And I felt like The Lighthouse was more erotic
yes.
than this was.
I do agree as well. Like,
that's why I was so excited, because I was like, this is about to give me everything I want. And then I wasn't
wowed by that.
I wasn't feeling that.
I didn't feel like it was for real sickos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's ultimately what it came down to, is that I remember hearing, but also because I'm, like, terminally cynical, when I first heard someone describe it, like one of the people who saw, like, the pre-screeners be like, it was a psychosexual nightmare, I said, probably not.
I didn't see that. I was excited.
I was like, it's probably not going to be that, because I have felt lately, with a couple exceptions, that most I feel like this article's kind of become ubiquitous. Sorry. I didn't mean to, like, I thought it hit smack. It's kind of become ubiquitous, but there's, like, that article of the title, something along the lines of, like, everyone's beautiful and nobody's horny. That article about, like, the portrayal of the body in media lately. And this article's, like, from what, like, 2016, 2017? But it still feels really poignant of, like, where we are right now in, like, media.
It was beautiful.
Where it's, like...
everything was gorgeous.
Yeah, where it's, like, more about the aesthetic of it rather than feeling it. And, like... people were talking a little bit about it in a very different genre and context, but people were talking about the rom-com When Harry Met Sally, and they were like, well, Billy Crystal's ugly, and they're like, but he has so much charisma, and it's just like, we have beautiful people, but they don't have any chemistry with each other in these movies, and it's just more about seeing two beautiful people interact rather than actually having, like, palpable chemistry and having this, like, being able to interact with each other where we feel by proxy, because, not to sound like the most pretentious, unbearable person on the face of the planet, which I am, but, which is, like, watching a movie and watching that sort of, that, like, when I say that sort of, I mean, like, romantic or whatever, it is a voyeuristic experience, and, like, I feel like we should be able to get a voyeuristic thrill from seeing something that intimate, but I don't get it from anything. Like, I don't feel like I'm, like, I don't feel that. With very few exceptions, I feel like lately when people try to do something like this, it feels like they want to pantomime. They want to go through the motions of it without actually getting to the meat of it.
There's titties, she's moaning, like, sex is happening, and I'm like, okay, I can see that that's happening, but...
But it's like, it doesn't feel like anything. It feels... Like, I keep going back to you're sterile. It feels not, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, and that's kind of why I was a little disappointed, because it mostly it comes down to, and also, okay, because this is related, where when we were talking about there's a lot of emotions, but no exploration of where those emotions are coming from.
Yeah.
Which also goes into the pantomime and the sterility of some of this performance, where it's like I personally feel like they initially, or there is an inkling of a CSA narrative in Nosferatu, because she talks about being a very lonely child and reaching out, and this is a thing that reached back to her, and she talks about the experience of having this big emotional, psychic, whatever moment with him, and then she's completely unclothed, and then she sees herself as unclean, and she doesn't want Thomas to touch her, but they don't explore that, and what that means. And I'm not saying they have to sit down and have a PSA about, like, you know, grooming, but, like, to kind of embody these emotions more, and kind of deal with that a little bit more. And I feel like them including that bit, and then the conclusion of the film, where she literally has to sacrifice herself to this entity that potentially molested her as a child, and so they both die. Like, I don't understand where that's supposed to leave us.
Yeah, like I wasn't surprised by the ending, because that's how, like, the other ones... Well, the first one...
I don't remember.
I can't remember 1922.
Certainly the 70s one,
yeah, for sure. So, like, I'm not, like, surprised that, like, you know, they both died, but it just... If you're going to kind of start stepping into, like, a specific, like, narrative or theme, or, like, something really, like, deep, like, possible CSA, like, I feel like you need to continue to explore it a little bit more, like, kind of, like, I don't know, like...
Yeah. I feel like the other thing we talked about briefly before we started recording, we've been talking about it a bit.
I'm trying to remember. Wait, what?
Well, I'm about to say it and don't remember, which is that while it captures the aesthetics of Gothic, it doesn't... Gothic literature and Gothic media is about these heavy themes.
Yes.
And it very much explores these narratives, and it felt like this movie was uninterested in doing that. It just wanted to look Gothic and play with Gothic aesthetics, but it didn't want to get into the narrative.
Like, the big, like, you know, decay and madness and death and fear. We got all those, like, really, you know,
superficial, more surface level, but like what those things are there to speak about larger things.
Exactly.
We have decay, we have madness, we have fear to talk about the inherent horror of XYZ, and like Gothic horror very much deals with horror in domestic settings, talking about abuse and incest and CSA and all of these things that then are expressed by decay and madness and how that like weighs on you. And it felt like it didn't want to... I don't want to say it feels like he doesn't get it, but it feels like he doesn't... I don't know. Like, he's not interested in really getting
exploring
into
it more, like...
Yeah, or like engaging with what the genre is for.
Yeah.
Instead of what the genre looks like.
Yeah.
Like, it is... You know, Gothic literature came out concurrently with Romantic literature, where Romantic literature was a lot of really big emotions, but more of the positive. And then Gothic literature is like, we want those big emotions, but let's explore the darker side. And that's why a lot of these Gothic novels talk about, you know, misogyny. They talk about generational trauma and abuse, and how that manifests in these spaces, like a haunted house, with a creature like a vampire, with a ghost, because like I honestly feel like most Gothic horror comes down to it being a haunting. You're haunted by everything. You're haunted by your past. You're haunted by this creature. You're haunted by, you know, the setting is inherently haunted, and it's like, but let's meow. Yeah, that's one of the things that I think frustrated me, is that I ended the movie and my first thought was, so what? Like, so what was the point? Because it was so close to the other versions, but it didn't want to talk about it. And I was so prepared to be like, we watched the other versions, and it didn't matter because it was its own thing. But I was honestly shocked when I was like,
I know.
I'm like, oh, they're doing this part, and this part, and this part. And it just kind of felt like Robert Eggers was like, what if I did Nosferatu? Instead of being like, why am I doing Nosferatu? What do I have to say about it? Because to once again get on my little adaptation soapbox, which I bring up... If you've watched any of our Interview with the Vampire videos, I bring up, but then I ended in the positive. Yeah. Which is like, a point of an adaptation, in order to avoid redundancy, is to be in conversation with the previous iterations. So, with this movie, when I saw it, all I could think of was like, what... It didn't feel like it was in conversation with Nosferatu or Dracula. it felt like it was reading its lines off of a projector instead of actually speaking to the thing itself. Like, or trying to further what's being said. It was like, well, let me remember what was said before. And they're like, but what are you going to say? What, and then how does that play into what you're trying to say now?
Yeah. What are you trying to explore? What are you trying to investigate? What are you doing?
Yeah, like,
outside of just...
I've mentioned this too when I was in art school. I had a professor who said in a critique to somebody when they were explaining what their project was, she went, okay, so what? And I felt like this could have benefited from him be like, I want to do Nosferatu. And it's like, okay, so what? Mm-hmm. Like, what? This movie, this has a 102-year-old legacy. What are you adding to it? What are you saying with it?
It's actually very frustrating, to be honest. The more I think about it. Because
there's a lot to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot that could be said. And I feel like something that the other two movies never interacted with, and I feel like a lot of adaptations of Dracula don't interact with, is the inherent Orientalism of the story. And, like, you have this stranger from the East, from a strange culture, coming into our good Western society and infecting it with his presence. And it's like, and, you know, preying on our women and all of that. And it's like, instead of subverting it or addressing it, he just did it again. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt like there was no conversation about these themes, or no conversation about the things that have gone uncontested about this story. And it's like, so what was your goal other than to just be like, but then what he took away is any of the human elements of Count Orlok, which
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it goes back to that, like, I think vampires should go back to being scary, and it's like, but you don't get it. Yeah, so the thing is, like, I would not be frustrated if it was top to bottom bad. I think I get more frustrated with something when it has potential that I feel like wasn't reached.
I was talking to them the other day, just yesterday, and I was literally, like, so upset. I'm like, I can't get over this. Like, because I genuinely am so frustrated because everything else was basically perfect. Like, he was getting all those other, like, gothic horror, like, elements, but he was missing some crucial things that I feel like are essential to the story. And so I just, by the end, while I was, like, wowed by how beautiful it was, I was wowed by the cinematography, I was, like, and then I still didn't feel anything, and I was like, fuck. Yeah. I was like, no! Like, I was so fucking excited, and by the end, I just, because you have to have more. You have to have more than, like, the aesthetics of gothic horror. I want to feel something by the end of it. Like,
and I do think this is, like, what happens when we reduce movements to what they look like. And it's like, it didn't engage.
But yeah, is there anything else? I'm trying to think.
I feel like that's all.
There'll probably be something else
for me.
Maybe we'll, like, write a little. I mean, that's the main thing for me. Anyways, we've already talked through it. Literally, because I would have loved everything else. It's just that I really feel like that little human thread of, like, desperation and longing and, like, really feeling that loneliness, to really explain, like, this is why I'm doing this, because it adds to it. It adds to the fear, and, like, I don't know. It just, a lot of it, as we already said, a lot of it just felt very sterile throughout, whether it was in regards to, like, the sexuality or the feelings that were there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, yeah. I once again, I really wanted to like it. I once again, love the look of it, but I feel frustrated that it also feels like we're the only ones who
I
feel
know,
this
so
way.
I'm like, man, am I crazy? I'm gonna try to watch it one more time, but I don't think I'm gonna change my mind, because usually, like, I react very strongly to even, like, the smallest thing. So even if I felt like there was, like, even a little bit of that, like, emotional beat to it, I would have felt it, and it would have at least done enough to push it up for me to excuse if it wasn't, like, perfect. But, like, it was just... It just
I think I would also forgive it a lot more if he had gone completely different
direction,
if
because at this point it's just like, well,
then I would have really forgiven a lot, because I'm like, well, it's a different, he's using Nosferatu, but it's not really Nosferatu. That
was the other thing,
but it's because it was so similar.
If it had gone in a completely different direction, then that would have changed.
I also think
it
could have benefited it, because then he would be fitting it to the version of Count Orlok that he was making, instead of doing it in this way, which begs for comparison. Like, when you're doing it this close, you're asking to be compared.
And if you're taking out the only thing, like, the one thing that, like, really, like, pushed forward the narrative and what made, like, the other two, like, so wonderful, that one little thing, like, then it's like, well, then I don't know why you did it then. Just so you can make a really pretty, like, film that was it was so pretty. That's why I'm so sad, y'all. Y'all don't even know. I keep...
I really love that type of vampire. I really do love the type of vampire who's just so lonely.
Yeah. They're willing to do anything.
Anything. They will destroy your life.
Yeah. And destroy everything around you, around them, themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very compelling. He took out the one thing that I felt like was super compelling in the other two. So that's why just in the end did not really work for me.
Yeah. It's also, like, hard, right? Like, when you're trying to do, like, I guess throw your hat in the ring in a property that has so much history of being made and remade, because, like we've said, this is basically Dracula, so it's like there's the
two, like,
vampire.
Nosferatu movies, but then also, like,
every Dracula adaptation you're contending with, like, because even comparing the sensuality between this and Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's like you can feel the difference in, like, sensuality. And I kind of wish they had paid homage. Listen, I love the goofy line of, like, the children of the night, what sweet music.
That was the other thing we
make.
said, that it was like he wanted it to be so, like, darker and edgier that he was afraid to just be a little goofy, which I felt like...
Which was so strange, because, like, it felt like he was so unself-conscious in writing and directing every other character but Count Orlok. It's like he wanted Count Orlok to not be goofy even for a second, even though he was still kind of goofy sometimes. But that just has to do with, like, the faces that Bill Skarsgård can make. Like, when he pops over in the coffin, he's just like...
Yeah. I saw the interview about that, when he kept, like...
kept having to do it again. He had to lie down that coffin full of rats and maggots. But, like, I don't know. It's like he when you do that, what it feels like is like your little kid who's like, don't laugh at it, and I'm like, I know, but now it just feels like you went so far in the direction of, like, don't laugh at him. This is serious. That now he's not a guy.
Serious business, and I'm like, well,
now you didn't make a character, unfortunately.
Now he's just like this evil entity of...
But, yeah, it's more like he's an idea of something rather than a physical, like, character in the story.
Yeah.
It's like and if this is what they were going for, I don't feel like it was effective. Yeah. Well, because it felt like it's like the idea of death and evil. And it's just like, okay, but I need you to make that compelling for me. Instead of it being just like,
yeah.
You know. Anyway. The things I enjoyed, I really enjoyed, but the things I didn't enjoy, I do feel
crucial
like
for me, anyways.
This was a load-bearing critique, like.
Yeah.
And it just ended up, ending the experience where I was like, that was a movie, anyway, instead of it being like, wow, that was really something. And, you know, we've liked a lot of other things that are really popular this year, so it's not that we're haters, or it's not that
we're not haters.
Contrary, we don't want to like the popular thing, we want to stay off the bandwagon. I love the bandwagon, if the bandwagon is appealing, but it didn't seduce me, because it barely seduced any character in there. Like, it just wasn't, I didn't feel obsession.
Yes.
It
that
felt
was the
like
other word
obligation.
Yeah.
Or like compulsion, but not obsession.
Yeah. It was missing that. Those are the two words, obsession and desperation.
We needed it. I need to feel obsession from both Ellen and Count Orlok. I need to feel desperation specifically from Count Orlok.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. Those are our feelings on Nosferatu.
Yeah.
I do want to hear.
I do, yeah.
Other people's opinions.
Don't be mean.
Don't be mean, though. Don't.
Y'all get a little rowdy sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did you even listen to what we said?
Yeah, I want you to listen to what we said. I know sometimes we spoke over each other, but that's like the nature of how we are.
Sorry about it.
Listen through the crosstalk.
Exactly.
And then get back to us. Because I feel.
I want to have a conversation about this, to be honest.
If you found it, like, sexy, I don't say explain to me why.
Explain to me why.
Yeah, explain to me what the pull was, because I didn't get anything to me. It felt devoid of sexuality to me, whilst trying to be so, like, laden with sexuality.
Yeah.
But, yes.
Do you want to hear? Because I personally plan to rewatch it anyways, and just, I want to see if my feelings change at all in regards to anything.
Yeah.
But I do want to hear what y'all have to say. And if you guys agree with this, also put it in the comments, you know.
Yeah, if you agree with us, please.
Validate us. Crazy. We're the only ones. I've maybe seen, like, a couple of other reviews that, like on Letterboxd or whatever. Just, like, random other people saying kind of similar things that they just felt like it was just, like what was the point if they're doing all the same things for the most part.
And, like,
but that's, like, two people that I've seen out of everyone, like, really, like, raving about it. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
And, like, I don't know if it's because I spent a while watching a lot of really weird movies that maybe I'm just, like, ruined. But,
and I also
like,
watched the 79 version, like, 2 nights before. So I'm like, was I just, like, since it you guys cannot deny that it was, like, play-by-play.
Play-by-play.
And so I'm like, is it just because it was so play-by-play, I'm just, like, being like... But also...
If he did... You can't... Like, once again, I've said this already, but if you do it that, like, play-by-play, you are inviting comparison.
So there's that.
You've got to understand that. And so it's like... And so you're setting yourself up to be seen as, like, not standing on your own, but... like, constantly bookended by this other thing. And so it's like, yes, it is play-by-play in moments, especially the beginning, down to, like, the cat. Like, straight up, like...
But I'm never going to complain about a cat.
I'm not going to complain about a cat either. That's not what I'm complaining about. I don't even think, like, these moments being the same is a bad thing. But it's, like, ultimately comes down to... What's the point? What was the point? Why are you doing this? Sounds like why are you doing this? But it's just like, no, why are you making this movie? I need to understand why you felt compelled to make it, other than you felt like making Nosferatu. And it's like, and people are gonna be, like, well, there doesn't need to be more than that. But, yes, sure, yeah, there's a need to be more than that. But if you want me to take you seriously, and if you want me to treat your work as a work of art that is trying to say something and trying to be something, it's got to be more than that. Otherwise, I'll treat you like you're superficial. If it doesn't need to be deep, I won't treat you like you're deep. I'll treat you like it's shallow. But I don't think that's what he's going for. But then ultimately it comes down to, what was the point? Mm-hmm. I need to know what the point was. Otherwise, I'm going to treat it like it wasn't a serious movie. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't need to be serious, I won't treat it seriously. Mm-hmm. I will take it as seriously as I feel the director is. Mm-hmm. And if I feel the director is trying to take themselves very seriously, I will then take their movie very seriously. And that's where we end up with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I want to get ahead of that. I see a lot of people be like, well, it doesn't need to do all that. I'm like, it doesn't need to do all that, but it feels like he wants to do all that, and therefore I am now engaging with him on the level he's inviting us to engage with him on. Mm-hmm. It feels very apt that I'm wearing my little black turtleneck. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry. But, yes.
Sorry.
But we still want to hear what you have to say.
I do want to hear what you have to say. But I'm trying to lay the ground rules for what the parameters for discussion, this is where at least I'm approaching this critique from. I don't want to speak for you and say where we're approaching it from.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't know what you... But that's why I am talking about it the way that I am, because of these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You could have talked through me drinking water instead of letting it just be silent.
Sorry. Okay, anyways. We still want to have discussion with y'all.
Yes, I would love to have discussion.
Because I really am curious about what... I don't know. I have already, like we said, seen a lot of people's responses so far, and we've realized that ours is a little different. But, I'm surprised that, sometimes you're on the same page, and sometimes we're not.
With the general public? Or with each other?
Each other. Because I was like, we could have had very different opinions.
Yeah, we've had different opinions before, and we'll have different opinions again. But we were pretty aligned.
Sometimes they're not on it, but
I'm not on it. Sometimes I live in Hatersville.
Yeah.
And
sometimes they are too much of a hater. But that's
honestly what it always is. Either we both like it or you like it and I don't.
Yeah.
It's I don't think it's ever been like, I like it and you're like,
that's true. I don't think there's one thing that you liked that I've hated.
Well, when you finish it, you can tell me if that's maybe Mulholland Drive.
Oh, I need to watch that. Don't at me. Whatever.
I love Mulholland Drive.
I'm sure it's great.
Anyway, yeah, so we want to have a conversation about it. We want to hear...
We're getting off.
This is what happens.
That's what happens when you come...
We didn't have a script.
Yeah,
we just were kind of like, let's talk about Nosferatu.
We just talk. Which is why sometimes I get a little quiet because I'm not the big talker. Like...
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
This guy who won't shut up.
He doesn't know how to be quiet, so,
Yeah. So, yes. And on that note, we want to have a discussion.
How many times are we going to say this?
Because I'm trying to lead us to the outro, and this is the perfect segue for it. We're probably going to post a little bit more, maybe a clip from this on our TikTok at some point.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk to us there, we can talk there, or Instagram, whatever. We have a Twitter, we have a Blue Sky.
We have Blue Sky now, but people need to get on it.
People need to get on
engage on it.
We need have a blog as well. Like we said, we're thinking of maybe doing a review on there of this too, to maybe like refine the thoughts into something more concise instead of being a whole thing.
How we talk.
Yeah.
Because we're just like...
Yeah, so engage with us there, engage with us here. Follow us on our social media, it's in the description. And yeah, we usually plug something coming up, but we haven't planned that far ahead. Except in January, we want to start streaming.
Yes, you guys get to watch me play video games. And just so you know, I'm very good at playing video games, and I'm never scared. And I'm very brave.
Brave little boy.
I am. So, get into it.
I never have to say, just give me the
They've never said that, ever.
Because they're stuck constantly pausing instead of moving forward.
That has never happened. Is what they're
before,
trying to say. That's
ever.
Never happened. Because I am brave as fuck.
They've never invited me over to their house to play a game they bought that they're too scared to play.
Yeah, I've never
done that.
That's someone else. Someone else would do something like that, but not me, because I'm a bad bitch and I'm never scared of shit. You know what I'm saying? So
anyway, we do want to start streaming in January. There's a lot of video games because like we are video game people. We love video games. There's a lot of horror video games we haven't played but want to play.
Yeah.
And would like to play on a streaming platform. So
I can slay some bitches, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not scared of shit.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. We're probably going to post about when we're going to do that on our various social medias. But that's really all we kind of have for now. Yes.
You actually did a whole, outro by yourself this time.
Yeah, I had to.
Is it because that Celsius is hitting finally?
Yeah.
I was tired of shit before we started this. So if you noticed a very drastic
kind of went like
change.
this and then spiked.
That's why. Because I was very low energy. I was up to 3 a.m. last night and I couldn't go to sleep, and then I woke up a million times. So I was very tired today.
Yeah.
But I'm back at it now.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was it. We can't keep going again.
Yeah, all that to say, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Follow us on social media, and stay tuned for what we have next. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.